Paul Homily, and I want to talk about Ormco Forum 2015. It's about 2 months ago I got this in an email. It shows the speaking agenda. Now, you've seen agendas like this before, and agendas like this give us a sense of sequence and duration, but they really don't show us what the outcome of the program could be. Let me show you why. In a traditional conference model, we have an MC, a Master of Ceremonies. In this case, it's John Graham. And in the traditional conference model, the MC introduces the first speaker. And the first speaker does his or her thing and then sits down. Then the MC introduces the second speaker, and it goes on and on and on. This is very predictable. Most traditional conference models follow this process. It's very siloed. What I mean by siloed is the individual speakers aren't related to each other. They're almost like they're individual soloists, and they're not synergizing with each other's content. Consequently, this approach really lacks innovation, and because it lacks innovation, it's very forgettable on the part of the audience member. We want audience members to really remember their experience, really for two reasons. One, to give them their money and their time's worth for being here. Plus, I really want to set us up for the Forum 2016. Wouldn't it be cool if we could double the enrollment of that meeting? You want to make a difference in the profession of orthodontics? Let's do that. Wouldn't that be cool? And what I'm talking about here is what I call the Ormco Synegy model. Let me give you an example, a sense of what I'm talking about here. Here we've got the same two speakers and the same MC. Now, the introduction to our first speaker will now remember, it will be assisted with a video. See, right there, it's going to be a little bit more interesting, a little bit more innovative. So Graham is going to introduce Frost. Frost then, as part of his talk, is going to do two things. One, he is going to call back or refer to the theme. That is to reinforce the theme. See, John Graham is going to be talking about the theme of the meeting, the innovation and the education, about helping the orthodontic profession to thrive during trying times. Frost is going to tie back to that in some way in his talk. Not necessarily in the beginning of his talk, but at some point in the talk, he will call back to that theme. Also, at some point in that talk, he will foreshadow something that Pollock is going to say, something that relates to her topic. And what this does, it creates a relationship between Frost and Pollock. It shows that they're on the same team. That way, Frost can tee up something that Pollock is going to say. Now, when Frost finishes his presentation, then Graham introduces Pollock. Now, Pollock will call back to the theme, just like Frost did, and she will call back to something that Frost said. Now, when we look at this overall, this provides a very fresh approach. It's a synergistic approach because now these two speakers, Frost and Pollock, are actually in some ways talking to each other from the front of the room. This is very innovative, and consequently, it's memorable for the audience members. They will remember what happened here. Okay? This is going to be fun, guys. So now, if we take this simple model and then apply it to Thursday morning, this is what Thursday morning looks like. It will start with Graham issuing the welcome. Maybe he'll tell a story. He'll introduce the theme of the meeting and give the meeting agenda. He then will introduce Erickson. Erickson, as part of his talk, will call back to the theme. He will also foreshadow what Sarver is going to say. Then, when Erickson is finished, Graham will introduce Sarver. Sarver, at some point in his talk, will call back to the theme and call back to something that Erickson said. When Sarver is finished, Graham will introduce the break. That's Thursday morning. Rather, that Thursday opening Thursday morning. Now, here's Thursday after the break. Graham will welcome everyone back, maybe give some insights as to what happened prior to the break. He will then play the video intro to Badawi. He will then call back to the theme and then foreshadow Smith. Graham will introduce Smith. Smith will call back to the theme. He'll also call back to what Badawi had to say and foreshadow what Watson is going to say. Now, we don't necessarily know the content of what Watson will say, but I bet it'd have to do something with competition and winning and losing and overcoming challenges and vision and teamwork. And Bob, you're a smart guy. You can figure all this out. You weave that into your talk. And maybe we get a chance to talk to Watson before his talk to get a sense of what he's going to say. Then, when Smith is finished, Graham introduces Watson. It'd be really cool if we could get Tom to call back to the theme. The good celebrity speakers will do that. I've seen it happen a lot. Well, the celebrity listens to what the other speakers are saying. The celebrity will take some time to look at the theme. We can ask Tom to call back to our theme, and I think we can do that in a very gracious way. And then Thursday after the break, now if the Thursday morning is finished, Graham, you'll wrap it up and issue any calls to action. Now, here's Friday morning, Friday opening. Graham, you welcome everybody back. I would bet that something funny happened the previous day. So if you could call back to that with some humor, I think that would be really cool. Again, reinforce the theme, talk about the day's agenda. Now, you'll use your video intro to introduce Mike. Mike, you'll call back to the theme. Mike, you'll also foreshadow what Frost has to say. Mike, when you're finished, Graham will introduce Frost. Frost, you'll call back to the theme. You'll also call back to what Mike has to say. And, Frost, you'll foreshadow Chang. See, it's the middle speaker that has to do all the work here. Stuart, I know you can do it. Then, Graham introduces Chang. Chang calls back to the theme. Chang calls back to Frost. And then, Graham, you introduce the break. You see the synergy? It's kind of ping-ponging back and forth. And you can have some fun with this, guys. Now, Friday after the break, Graham welcomes everybody back, gives insights from the morning. Again, a video intro to Jeff. Jeff, you call back to the theme. You foreshadow Pollock. Graham introduced Pollock. Pollock, you call back to the theme, call back to Jeff, and foreshadow Tim. You see, in order for this to work, you speakers are going to have to talk to each other. You're going to have to pick up the phone or send an email or something so you can get a sense of what the sweet spot, what the theme, or what a key point in the next or the previous speaker's presentation is going to be. That way you can land on it. That way you can reinforce it. That's what creates the synergy. When Sonia, when you're finished, Graham will introduce Tim. Tim, you call back to the theme, call back to Pollock, and that ends the Friday morning. Graham, you come up, wrap up the theme, wrap up calls to action. What I would like to see, again, you guys may not go along with this, but I tell you what, I think it would be really terrific, and I really haven't seen it done a lot, is a curtain call. All the speakers come back to the stage. John Graham calls their names out individually as you walk up to the stage. There's a congratulations, there's a applause, there's a bow maybe or something, and then John, you close the session and we take a nice snappy group photo. Wouldn't that be cool? End on very high energy. Now, let's talk about a few details. Calling back to the theme. This is the theme as I pulled it off the website. Now, there's a lot going on here to call back to. And what I did is I took the liberty to kind of boil this down to something like this. Ormco helps lead the orthodontic profession to thrive through changing times by providing education and innovation that enhances the treatment experience for its patients and providers. This theme summary now allows us to identify key thematic words. Words like lead, thrive, education, innovation, and enhance. And my recommendation is to, during your what and why in your talk, or somewhere in your talk, to land on these key words, lead, thrive, education, innovation, enhance. The point here is repetition. There's a reason why Ormco leadership has selected these words to get to center on the message to the audience. It's our responsibility as the key opinion leaders to reinforce these messages. So use these keywords in your performance. Let's talk about callbacks. It's pretty simple. State your point of view, then get specific to the relevance. For example, I might say, I enjoyed a point made by our previous speaker, Dr. Frost, when he said, too many facial profiles are destroyed for the sake of crowding correction. Applying this to my point of getting kids in early for ortho evaluations, I recommend. You see here what we've done is we stated a point of view, which is positive. I enjoyed the point, and then we got specific to its value. It's the same thing with foreshadowing. State your point of view, then get specific. Our next speaker, Dr. Frost, will say, too many facial profiles are destroyed for the sake of crowding correction. Applying this to my point of getting kids in early for ortho evaluations, I recommend. So you can foreshadow and you can call back using the same structure. Now here's some tips for callbacks and foreshadows. Use the speaker's name. Don't say our previous speaker. That sounds too sterile. Make it personal. Dr. Frost said. State it from a positive point of view. Say something you liked about the previous or the next presentation. If you want to say something negative, save it for the bar, not for the front of the room. Be specific as to its relevance to your program. Use humor if you can. That's always a great tool to make your own presentation more interesting. And for sure, avoid overuse of callbacks. Don't keep calling back, well, Dr. Frost said, and then Dr. Frost said, and Dr. Frost said. After a while, why don't we just get Dr. Frost back up here to speak, right? So don't overdo it. Again, here's how we typically see a program organized. This is the way I see it organized. See, for me, it's all about an enhanced audience experience. We want to give the audience something that they haven't experienced before. If you remember at the Ormco Summit in Chicago a few months ago, I talked about the concept called consilience. That is, if we weren't giving a scientific session, how would it be if we were giving a concert? If it was a concert, well, then it's certainly all about the audience. And if we give the audience an enhanced and excellent experience, something very interesting happens. Because, see, it is through the audience experience that you're defined as a leader. If the audience doesn't have a good experience listening to you, are they going to see you as a leader? No, they won't. However, if you give the audience an experience where they hear something, maybe first from you for the very first time, they hear something new, it's something they can use, something they can bring back Monday, something that inspires them, then that's what creates your position as a leader, not your content. If you don't give the audience an enhanced experience, if you don't give them something of immediate value, then you're just another clinician up there showing slides, and you don't want that. You want to be seen as a thought leader. Now, my calls to action for you is prepare and rehearse. Prepare and rehearse your themes, your callbacks, your foreshadowing. Call each other, figure it out, find out what the previous and the next speakers are talking about, get their key point, include it in your talk, tie it into your talk, reinforce it in your talk somehow. And if you need additional support, call me. I love talking with you guys. I've talked to many of you in the last 3 or 4 weeks ever since I sent out my threatening email to everybody. Call me, talk about it. We can have a great time. We can really make a difference, and we can help the profession of orthodontics thrive through changing times. So everyone, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.